You don't have a discipline problem. You have an honesty problem. And that's the truth. Because if you were actually honest with yourself, and I'm not talking about surface level honesty, not what you tell other people, but real, authentic honesty, you already know what's holding your life back. Nobody has to tell you what to do. You can feel it. There's that tension inside of you, that weight, the thing sitting in your chest you try not to think about. You know where you're cutting corners. You know where you're making excuses in your life. And you also know where you keep choosing comfort over the man you say you want to be. And that's what bothers you the most. Because you're not confused. There's just this internal conflict. Two versions of you battling each other. The man you talk about becoming, and then there's the man you keep choosing to be, at war with each other. And if you're being real, you probably already had this conversation with yourself multiple times. When it's quiet, maybe at night, and there's nothing to distract you. Like I said, this isn't new information. So if you know what to do, why aren't you doing it? Why do you keep ending up in the same place, making the same promises, and then breaking those promises? That's the part nobody wants to sit in. Welcome back to Built After Breakage. I'm Stephen Mason, and this podcast is for the man who knows he is capable of more, but feels stuck between who he has been and who he is supposed to become. And today, we're going to dive deeper than discipline. Because discipline, that's not your real problem. Honesty is. I want to rewind my story for a second. I remember sitting in the confinement prison cell, 6x9, small, tight room. Bright light above me, just heating up the entire room, never turning off. The place smelled very musty, like sweat, never left. And it was noisy. The noise never stopped. People yelling, doors slamming, echoes bouncing off the prison walls. And it wasn't just loud, it was constant. Like they designed it to completely wear you down. And I was sitting there on that steel platform, no mattress, just cold metal. And it wasn't my first time there. It was my sixth time within 2 years. And at that point, it wasn't shocking anymore. It was who I was becoming. And earlier that day, I was sitting there thinking about my mom, because on Wednesdays and Sundays, I would get to talk to her on the phone for 15 minutes each. And I couldn't. You don't get any calls, no contact, nothing while you're in confinement. And then mail time came, the one moment you're hoping someone remembers you. Maybe you get a letter, and just hearing your name being called meant something. But I remember the guard walking by. He was calling names, one after another. My heart's racing, but mine was never called. He just kept walking. And I remember thinking, nobody's thinking about you. I'm really in this alone. And something in me broke. But it wasn't anger. It was like silence inside of me. I'm just sitting there and my mind starts racing. And I remember thinking about my future. And I felt like I really only had two options. I was either going to go all in on this lifestyle and become the best criminal I could be, or something had to change. And what scared me the most was I knew I could go down that avenue. I knew I had it in me, but I was scared to be around violence, chaos, and what limits would I have if I chose that route? However, it only felt like one decision away. And I remember thinking, I'm the type of person who pushes limits, who tests the boundaries, questions everything. And when you're in that environment, you end up going deeper into that. And I was angry. I was angry at myself, my parents, the people who raised me and turned their backs on me when I got locked out. I was angry at the life I was born into. I was even angry at God. Like, God, why would you let this happen? And at the same time, I felt stuck in that life. Like, this is just who I am. I just have to walk it out. And I was thinking in my head, wow, I'm going to be in this type of lifestyle forever. And it broke me. I got on my knees. I was crying. I didn't have anything magical to say. I just said, God, if you're real, please help me. Because I can't fix me. And I sat there for a few minutes, just crying. And nothing happened. No voice, no feeling inside, just silence. But the next day, a chaplain handed me a Bible, and something inside of me started to shift as I read it. Not instantly, but something changed. And even then, as I started to change because I was reading the Bible, I still had a part of me that wanted to control my life. And now I'm going to fast forward to when I got out of prison. I still drifted because I got out and I went right back to controlling everything in my life like an idiot. And I went into grind mode because the first week out, I felt free, but I also felt this tremendous amount of pressure. I had to find a job. I was a felon. I was on probation, so I had no room for error. I went home with my wife, met her family, tried to step into a normal life. But inside, I did not feel normal. I felt like I had something to prove. So I went all in. I woke up early, went to work early, left work, went to the gym. Then I came home, spent about an hour with my family. And I thought that was, enough family time, that I was quote unquote present, but mentally I was somewhere else entirely, trying to figure out how to get ahead, how to catch up, how to prove I wasn't going to be a victim of my past. I refused to be part of the recidivism statistics. And I told myself, I got this. And slowly, I pushed God out. Not deliberately and intentionally, but I stopped depending on Him. My prayers became more routine, like I was just simply checking a box, because in my mind, success was the answer. If I could just build something, earn enough, I would be enough, right? Everything would fix itself. But inside, I felt lost. I was driven, but unsure because I didn't have direction And my wife felt it. She said she felt disconnected. And I remember thinking, how can you feel disconnected? I'm working. I'm providing. Everything I do is for you and our family. But the truth was, I wasn't really there. And deep down, I knew she was right. But I ignored it because I believed chasing the next phase was the reason why I was able to make so much progress. I thought it was a good thing. And that belief cost me everything because then I was so focused on the next phase and not giving her the time that she needed and the kids the time that they deserved. And it was turmoil in the house that I created out of my own selfishness and because I took charge of my life instead of depending on God and asking God for direction. I would have been able to properly align things as they should be had I sought his guidance. But I didn't, and there was turmoil. There was, fights over finances and how I spent my time, so focused on success that I started thinking the grass is greener on the other side. And that set me down the wrong rabbit hole. Eventually, I cheated on my wife. Worst decision I ever made. And I knew exactly what I was doing. And that's the part most people don't want to admit. It was a mistake. And it was lack of guidance. Letting my pride and my own selfish desires take control over me. So I made a decision. And in that moment, I chose what I wanted over everything I said I cared about. Over my marriage, over her, over the life we were trying to build together. And after it happened, I didn't feel proud at all. But I didn't necessarily stop. Because in my mind, once you cross that line, there's no coming back, right? It's already done. Does it even matter now? Because that's how stupid I was. Those are the thoughts that I had. And I wish I relied on God, but that's how you spiral. And ultimately, she left. There wasn't even a real conversation because I'm too stupid. She found out and I packed my stuff and left. And in my head, I thought I had options. I thought I was free now. And I really believed that. No pressure, no expectations to come home at a certain time or get off work at a certain time. I could work as much as I wanted and just truly focus on what mattered most, which was success, right? Wrong. So very wrong. I thought I could just focus on me. But I wasn't free like I thought I was. I was avoiding responsibility. I was avoiding being a man. God blessed me with her and my stepkids, and that's honorable. But I wasn't ready for it. I didn't even understand it. So I was avoiding the truth. This freedom I thought I had, I didn't have any direction. So it was just chaos without accountability. That's the path I was headed down. So after the divorce, I went into what I thought was the bachelor life. Out drinking, staying out late, doing ultimately whatever I wanted, but really I was just numbing everything. And one night I remember sitting alone after going out. The house was quiet. My phone was on its charger. I wasn't looking at it, scrolling, and it really hit me. This isn't freedom. This is loneliness. And you're an idiot, Stephen. And I just looked around, and it didn't feel like home. It felt empty. No voices, no laughter, no connection. Just me. And I thought I had everything that I wanted, right? But none of it meant anything, because the people that mattered the most were not there. And that's when it broke me down. I didn't just lose a relationship. I lost something I was supposed to protect, something God gave me to lead my family. And fast forward a few months later, I started a trucking business. I'm driving my semi on I-70 outside St. Louis. It was a cold, gloomy day, and I was 5 hours into the drive listening to a trucking business podcast, thinking about building something big. And boom, it hit me. I was looking at the passenger seat thinking, she should be here. And I said it out loud, damn, I miss you, Ashley. And I just sat there, driving, hands on the wheel, and everything got quiet, not outside, but inside me. And I started thinking, how in the hell did I get here? How did I take something good God gave me and destroy it? And I knew I couldn't blame anything. Not my past, not my circumstances. It was my fault. And that moment felt exactly like that moment back in that prison cell in confinement. Different place, but the same truth. I'm the problem. And it clicked. I just knew what I needed to do. I needed to stop running from myself. And I needed to start running to God to help me fix myself. And I just decided to surrender to the Lord. Not halfway, but full surrender to God. And surrender for me looked like this. Not trusting my first reaction. Not letting my emotions lead me. Because my first, default reaction to things is sinful. I had to actually think through my decisions. How would they impact other people? God changed my focus. It's supposed to be Him first, my wife, my kids, then work. And that was really, really hard for me because I was so used to putting work first. So obedience for me felt like war within myself. Everything in me wanted to do one thing, and that's work and succeed. And I had to choose what God told me to choose. Him, my wife, my family, whom I lost. So it was a struggle for me. And I surrendered one day at a time, one step at a time. It was like climbing a ladder, going up one step at a time. And eventually, 6 months after that, the good Lord connected me with my wife again. I just randomly texted her and said, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm sorry. But I just wanted you to know that. You don't have to respond. And she did. She cursed me out, actually. She was very mad, and rightly so. But talking for quite some time, and then we made a decision to put God at the center of our marriage. And our first date was actually at a church. We went to a church, listened to a sermon, and then we went and had lunch. And that was the beginning of the restoration of my marriage, which we'll touch on another podcast. But to fast forward, I still get very frustrated. I still worry. So I still slide, especially when it comes to my finances. However, the good Lord gives me strength to overcome any obstacles that come my way. Whether it's my wife, whether it's my job, my kids, because we have 6 kids, 2 twins with each other, and then I have a boy, and she has 2 boys and a girl. So we're completely blessed and blended, but whoa, it's hard work. So I seek God on a daily basis, especially about my finances. And even now, even though I can see God's hand in my life, I still struggle to fully trust Him with that, as I'm sure most of you do. But I keep coming back to His truth. I've already seen what my life looks like without Him, and I don't want that again. So if you feel stuck, you're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you're avoiding the truth. So start there. Tell yourself the truth. Then bring God into your life. Like for real, bring God into your life. Because you don't just need discipline. You need God's divine guidance. Pray to Him. Seek Him. He will transform you. Most of us are conditioned by our parents and our environment. And that's what ultimately affects the way we look at things and how we make decisions, because it's all about our perspective. And you only gain perspective from experience in life. And if your experience in life isn't necessarily good like mine was, well, you need something to look to. And for me, that was God. There's no other way. He will transform you. He will give you the knowledge you need. I have more of an abundant life now than I could have ever imagined. It's God. He's restored my marriage. He's made us successful. And now I'm more at peace with who I am as a man than I was before. It was war, internal war with myself. But now I'm proud of who I am in God, because He's grounded me and given me the knowledge to make decisions to where I don't have to check myself every time I'm going to react. Now I'm actually reacting in a good way. I have reconditioned myself through God's Word. So, seek God, and I hope to see you in the next episode.